Good afternoon. A very warm welcome to you on Parentune Live. I hope you and your family are doing well. My name is Jharna Kukreja and I'm your host for today. Today we're joined by Parentune expert Kiran Tevtiya to help you understand how to deal with your child's anger. Kiran, I wanted to ask you, what are the basic causes for anger issues in a child? Are there any underlying reasons responsible for anger issues in a child?
Okay. Um, so, if we have to look at the different causes, different reasons, whys behind why a child is looking so flustered, so frustrated, throwing things or sulking, one of the primary reason is that at that moment the child is not feeling safe, right? The child is not feeling connected. Okay, the child is not feeling that either the expectations which is coming to the child is not able to fulfill it, or the child is just carrying on some older grudges, or there could be some other challenges, like the child has low level of frustration, maybe owing to ADHD, maybe owing to any other neurodevelopment challenges as well. So yeah, there can be many reasons out here that why the child could be feeling angry. Yeah, the primary being
Right,
that the child is not feeling safe. Yeah.
right. So, anger is often an expression of fear, you could say. Right,
Fear, frustration, some other underlying anxiety, like if there is some dysfunction in the family at that point of time. Maybe something has changed in the child's life that can also have a overriding effect, like some new school, new caretaker, family disruptions, some functions. Suddenly, the routine of the child changes. So there can be many reasons why the child suddenly finds himself in or herself in a situation of meltdown. Yeah.
right. So, would you say, in that case, are anger issues in children often misunderstood? The causes responsible for anger issues in children, are they often misunderstood by us parents?
Very true. So, a lot of times, if the child says, I hate you, when the child says, leave me alone, when the child is hitting, as a parent, we could actually be internalizing it, or could
Right.
be taking it personally, or we ourselves could be getting frustrated when it is a child whose frustration needs to be handled. So,
Okay.
yes, a lot of times we could actually be having our own emotional outburst instead of calming the child.
Right, Kiran. If you've just joined us on this Parentune Live, we are with child psychologist Kiran Tevtiya, who is answering all your questions on how to deal with your child's anger. Kiran is a Mumbai based child psychologist who specializes in child behavior and development. She is well known for supporting parents in addressing emotional and behavioral challenges in their children. You can post your questions for Kiran on the Parentune app in either English or in Hindi, and we will have them answered in just a few minutes from now. Kiran, you spoke about the causes responsible for anger issues in children. So, till what frequency and till what extent are feelings of anger in a child and an expression of anger from a child normal? And when do you know that it could be a cause for concern?
Okay. So now we have to be a little specific out here, Jharna, in terms of, for example, if for a 3-year-old child, right, or a 4-year-old child, lying down on the floor in public could be acceptable when the child is having meltdown. But for an
Okay.
8-year-old child to do the same thing is not acceptable. It is understood that the child, by the time the child is 7 or 8 years old, right, is out of the pre-primary, the child has learned other ways to handle the frustration. So it's age
Okay.
specific. In fact, in a pre-primary, it is a possibility that maybe the child could be having a meltdown twice in a day, or once or twice or even 3 times in a day. More important is that if in a period of time the child is finding it very difficult to calm down, it is affecting the child's relationship with the peers, It is affecting the child's relationship with the siblings. It is affecting the child's academics, right? And the
Okay.
child is just not, even when the child is calming down, he is or she is not connecting with the parents back. So those could
Right.
be the signals that we need to do more to help the child.
Right. Kiran, you mentioned how the developmental stage and age of the child also has to be considered when judging whether their anger outbursts are natural or not. We have a question from Kranti S, who is the parent of a 5-year-old boy, and Kranti has a question related to her son's tantrums. Kranti says, "My
Mhm.
son is 5 years old. He's always throwing temper tantrums, especially when we are out for shopping. I feel embarrassed in front of others when he creates a scene for buying toys or unnecessary stuff. Please help me on how to deal with this." So, Kiran, at the age of 5, is this par for course, or should Kranti be taking some steps or helping her son overcome these feelings of anger when his maybe material desires are not met?
Right. So definitely, Jharna, it is a good practice if you're able to help the child at this point of time. One of the biggest reason why the child could be throwing the tantrums is also, and by the time the child is 5 years old, is also inconsistent instructions given to the child, and
Okay.
also validation of the behavior. So, see, a lot of times the same behavior, if it is seen in a positive light, for example, when the child is running in a competition, okay, and the child does not come first, and then the next day the child is trying harder to run faster, and then the next day again trying even harder, and the next competition the child wins, okay, we see it as a positive behavior, right? The child is just not able to give up, right? We
Right.
see it as perseverance. Now, a similar thing can be applied here also. That when the child has put an aim that, all right, that particular toy, that particular chocolate, that particular gadget is what I really want for me. Okay. So the same behavior, of course, can get extended here also. It is but logical. So we have to see it from child's point of view. That child cannot differentiate. We can't expect a child to differentiate between good and bad behavior. It is a behavior. All right.
Yeah.
So what can help here, Kranti, is that somewhere a check that is the child getting validated for this behavior, right? For example, if the child lie down in public, okay, and of course, as a parent, all sorts of questions can come in. Am I being a bad mother? Because it's all parenting in public. So the
Right.
easiest, if you're finding yourself overwhelmed, flooded with it, maybe the shopping list that you had, give it to the other person who is there, pick up your child and go, say, all right, it's done, we are going back home, or to the closest place. It depends how comfortable or how can you calm yourself, right?
Right.
So and you need to keep your child safe also, because you can't just go away leaving your wailing child. So you have to pick up your child and just go. So if the child in a consistent manner, just imagine, even out of 10 times, if the child gets it twice or thrice, because of upping and upping this behavior, it's a validation of behavior. So
Right.
it's like 20 to 30% probability, which is very
Right.
good. So and then the biggest challenge, Kranti, which happens is inconsistency. When the child is getting sometimes and is not getting sometimes, it is bound to increase the tantrums, because the child cannot explain, why is it I got it the last time and I'm not getting it this time. So if you really want to say no, you can think before no. And if you have said no once, it shouldn't become yes just because the child is adopting certain behavior. Right? Then
Right.
your whole energy has to go towards how you stay calm and you're able to help your child through the tantrum curve. It's a curve. It goes up, 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 and finally it's bound to come down when the child finds you calm and starts connecting back. So, yeah, I hope this helps.
Hope that helps you, Kranti. Our next question, Kiran, comes in from Sharjah. The parent of a 2-year-old, Halima, is asking, "My son is 2 years old and he gets angry when we don't give him something that he wants. and he doesn't chew his food, he ends up just swallowing it. So how could Halima handle temper tantrums of a 2-year-old? Any tips for parents of younger children?
Right. So, Hanima, I think your child is still building eating, right? So, and it is advisable, if you know that your child is not chewing, you can't kind of, at this age, you need not get into the thing of that, please chew and do it. You can actually cut it really small to make it easier for the child, right? So instead of putting it as that, let me give instruction and let the child follow, you can actually see what is the problem, right? So if the problem is that if he takes the whole solid inside, it's going to be indigestion, constipation, and everything. So you can actually make it easier for the child by cutting it really small, giving a spoon, and even if the child is just swallowing it, let the child first, right, learn to eat and enjoy that moment. So if it is like really a frustrating moment for you and for the child, unfortunately, Hanima, your child is may end up seeing eating moment as the moments of conflict. So let the
Yeah.
child enjoy that. See how you can increase that. And as far as if you say no to him, or I'm assuming it's a son, right? So as
Yes.
long as it's about if when you say a no and he is going behind that thing, young children, Hanima, really needs a lot of repetition, right? And in a consistent manner. Okay, so if you have said no to throw a ball in the living room, it always has to stay a no without reasons, in the smallest, shortest sentence that you can tell the child, right? So if you can just tell the child no balls in living room, right, or no mobile for you, then it has to stay like that. Okay, it can't become that when you go out and when you need a calm time, that time you give it and the other time you're not giving it. It's confusing the child. You just see how consistent you are. Secondly, you have to leave the child to handle the tantrum while you are there with the child physically and lovingly, right? For your child to be able to, this 2 years is a beautiful age when he's still building, right? He's still building. How do I handle my frustration? And of course, because young children, they are still building their self control, they are building their self regulation. A lot of we adults also are still learning how to handle our angers, right? All the mindfulness and meditation are all for us, right? So you have to your child has a process and has a learning to do to increase the frustration tolerance. And when he's having his tantrum, when you have said a no, you have to calmly just be there and support your child. Let the child go through, okay, and then finally the child sees you and is giving you a hug, and it's a connect back. No need for long lectures, no reasoning. 2 years old, and no, even later on discussing with the child, it doesn't work at all. In the moment, support your child through the no's. That will help him better. Yeah.
Right. Kiran, you mentioned how a lot of these anger issues, the fear could be responsible for them. But are there other behavioral issues that could be the cause for anger in a child, whether it's ADHD or any other behavioral issues?
See, of course, developmentally, when children have a tendency to get overstimulated,
Right.
overwhelmed, whether it is some kids are sensitive to sound, some kids are sensitive to light, to many people in a gathering, sometimes when you go in the lift. So I think it is important to understand what is triggering, to see a pattern. Sometimes what happens is when the child has been very stimulated, and when the child comes back, his chances of, or her chances of melting down are higher. So you have to see if after some high activity, if the child is kind of getting overwhelmed, and then have some preventive ways. Preventive ways could be where, for 10-15 minutes you have some kind of hugs, a skin to skin touch. They are very therapeutic, very helpful for children, even as old as a 13-14-year-olds. A lot of times as a child grows, we underestimate the touching, right, touch therapies. So when you see your child is having a tough time, you can just, kind of, shall I hold you for some time? You seem to be a little less in your energy. Have that, or maybe some rough and tough rumbling, tumbling, something of that sort. So see if the child can get some kind of groundedness at that point of time. In fact, for a child like 10 years old, 11 years old, you can actually sensitize a child that, okay, you seem to be a little getting stressed. You want to kind of take a deep breath, hold your breath 4 times, breathe out, count 8. So that way, even when you're not around, the child will have better strategies to handle. So yeah, help your child through that and see the pattern. Because building the frustration tolerance sometimes can be really challenging. There are, of course, genetic elements also. There are environmental elements also, right? So we got to be sensitive about it. Yeah. Even autism. So, based on medical conditions, of course, the children can be more prone to getting what I would say overwhelmed or flooded. Even a small trigger, which somebody else may not even notice, it can become overwhelming for them. Yeah. So notice what is happening to your child more.
Right, Kiran. I think that's quite enlightening. You spoke about how a parent needs to be sensitive at such moments, in the heat of the moment. We'll come more to that, but our first question is also related to how a parent should react when their child is having anger issues. This question comes in from Ahmedabad, from Ran Vijay, who is a parent to a 3 years, 2 month old child. Ranvijay says, hello ma'am, my son is 3 years and 2 months old. He joined nursery recently and gets homework from some days. He does it properly, but now he doesn't want to do it. And if we force him, he starts yelling and crying. He's very stubborn, feels irritated most of the time when he can't do something he really wants to do. And I can't handle this situation, and I end up throwing my tantrum and hitting him. So, do you have any advice for Ranvijay on how to handle this situation in a more effective way?
Right. Congratulations, Ranvijay. Your child has just joined the schooling system. Um, um it's important that in the pre-primary we focus more on the fun element of learning and leave the school to do the other rigor part of it. At home, the child needs to think that, okay, it's enjoying. So when you talk about homework, I would say that if you are noticing that if the homework has been given, for example, write 1 10 times, right, or write 0 10 times. Uh, if you have to just think about it, Ranvijay, if you have to do it, I'm sure you will find it boring as well. But because we are an adult, so we have a lot of self-talking mechanisms, right? We tell ourselves that it's good for me, I need to do it, right? And we see the long-term goal as well, that if I do it, the teacher will praise me. So as the child becomes older, the child gets into it. So at this point of time, if you notice that a particular way is not working for your child, you can actually, the same 0 actually can be done. Maybe you have a clay or something and the child is actually making a snake out of it and making a 0 out of it. More important is keep the fun element in the learning going. Homework, ideally, right, you may not want to get pressurized by the way the school is teaching, because school has a certain way of teaching in a one-to-many setup. You can definitely take an advantage of a one-to-one setup, right? You can be more dramatic, you can be more going at the pace of the child. So wherever you notice that there's a deadlock happening, you say you have to write this 10 times. The child says, or you say you have to speak twinkle twinkle little star, tell me what was the rhyme that you learned in the school today, right? And the child says, no, I'm busy with making my blocks. Okay, my suggestion is 3 years old, join the child in what the child is doing, and you already know what is being taught. So you can introduce that teaching in the, for example, if the child is making blocks, you can say, oh wow, it's 1 block, then 2 block, then 3 block, right? The beauty is where the early on the child first understands, Why am I in this schooling system? Right? Understands the practical aspects of learning. So goes beyond the book, and whatever practical things that the child is doing, introduce the learning in there. Uh, I wouldn't advise children's parents to get so bogged up with the homework has to be done and the book they shouldn't get any red marks in their book at this point of time. Uh, Focus more on concepts, focus more on applying those concepts in the practical life. Yeah, that's I would do. And another thing is, Ran Vijay, that early on, of course, children have low level of frustration. So if he's, for example, your child goes to the park and sees other children going up on the slide, and your child gets frustrated, why am I not able to do it, right? Like what you said, that when he's not able to do something, he gets frustrated. It's natural, right? When you as a parent start thinking that, oh my god, my child is feeling frustrated, I have to help my child, then the problem comes. So it's natural, it is okay for the child to feel frustrated, it is okay for the child. But when the child sees in your eyes that in your eyes a disapproval, oh my god, you are getting frustrated. When the child sees in your eyes a helplessness, right?
Yeah.
That, oh, how do I help my child? Because you can't help your child all the times, right? He wants to go and take the red ball of another child and the other child is not giving, so you can't always help your child. So but when the child sees a calmness in you, sees the control in you, sees that you are in the driving seat, and you know where you are, so the child is bound to get calm better. It's like when the child is kind of trembling and he sees a calm you exude a confidence that yes, you can handle it. So please stay calm when your child is having his moments of frustration, I can't do it, the blocks have fallen down, and resist that feeling which comes that let me make the blocks for my child myself to make, all right, my child should be happy now. No, keeping the child is happy is more than that. I think it's important, Ran Vijay, to help the child go through the frustration. Yeah, I hope it helps. Yeah. He's bound to get less frustrated when he sees a calmness in you.
Right, Kiran. In Ranvijay's case, we saw that Ranvijay was finding it difficult to manage his own frustration level in reaction to his child's anger issues. So, as a parent, if you feel that you yourself are not able to handle the situation in the spur of the moment, what should you do at that point of time? Any tips for parents whose own temper kind of rises when they see the child getting angry?
Yeah, that's anger management of adults. The topic changes. However, we also have to understand, directing again to, I'm sorry, Ran Vijay, please don't feel sidelined, but it's for everyone. All of us go through it, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I think important is if we have to understand that finally, when we are reaching to the level of frustration, there are many things happening before that. Okay.
Yeah.
For example, first we notice that the child is not able to make the block, it fell down. All right, taking examples help because we can apply to. Then we notice, okay, my child is, or for example, tying the laces. We notice that the child is trying to tie the laces, oh, he's doing it wrongly. So somewhere in you, before the child is bound to get frustrated, we are already feeling, oh, he's going wrong, he's going wrong, he's going wrong, right? So I think important is the self talk or the thoughts, being watchful of the thoughts which are coming in our mind, right? Because thoughts are definitely going to trigger some kind of feelings, all right? And then finally, whatever external way of manifestation of those feelings is bound to come. So thoughts, feelings, behavior, that's how the cycle works. So if somehow you are able to like for example, like an outsider, yeah, right, you are able to see, all right, you know what, this is what I'm thinking, I need to change what I'm thinking. It's not easy, but then it's a good thing, because you will notice that the moment you start saying, all right, my child is learning, all right, right, okay, he is doing it in this, finally when he will realize that he has not tied properly and probably will learn it on his own. So hold on to yourself, watch your thoughts. So that's definitely going to help your feelings and the behavior. And finally, one thing which I tell, immature of what the age of your child is, Jarna. A lot of times we feel we have to solve the problem right away. Okay.
Right.
Sometimes just notice, we talked about the heat of the moment. Sometimes we can notice that if we are physiologically getting triggered, right? If the adults
Yes.
caretakers are physiologically, you will feel it. You will see that the muscle is getting tense. You will feel that your voice tone is it's
Increasing.
increasing, right? That's a time actually that you have to tell one line to yourself, right? This is, I'm not in the right state to help my child, because it's never about us, it's never about the parents, it's always about the child needs support, the child is feeling disconnected, child is feeling unsafe, child is feeling frustrated. It's never about the parents. So you have to tell yourself, are you in a position to help your child? So if you say I'm not, it's better to take a break. You say, all right, you know what, I'm going to take a break and hand the child over nicely to another adult. Right. So take your own break. A lot of times, one night is not going to make big difference. It applies to adolescent as well. They may end up doing a lot of things. So take a break. Let people sleep over one night, and you can again pick up the next day and see, okay, what needs to be done. You'll be fresher. The child will be fresher. Yeah.
Right, Kiran. Kiran, our next question comes in from Garima, who is writing to us all the way from Singapore. Garima says, my daughter is 6 years and 4 months old. She gets so angry that she says, I feel like I want to break something or scratch someone. Also, I can observe that she is constantly yawning. So, based on what Garima has mentioned about her daughter, do you have any advice for her? And when should anger issues and angry behavior, be considered as a red flag, or is this normal for a 6-year-old to feel?
Right, right. Jana, one thing, the last line where Garima said that, I didn't catch that line, the last line, the
She says
connect
that
thing. What
she has
was that?
also observed that her daughter is constantly yawning. Could this be related to anger issues?
Yawning.
Maybe.
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
yawning.
okay.
I'm I can only assume, but maybe it has something related to feeling of tiredness or exhaustion.
Right. So that's interesting, Garima. That when you notice your child, also that is she looking? Is it happening? When she's saying I'm feeling like frustration, and also is it happening close to her sleep time, or is it happening uh, around when she is visibly looking more tired? So it's a good idea that sleep deficit is actually even though it's a lockdown and we all are at home, many of us, a lot of now that it's get opening up as well, but still sleep deficit is actually increasing. That's one thing that you may want to check for your child. Your child 6 years old need to get at least 9 hours of night sleep. You have to see what time is your child going to sleep, what time is she getting up, because that has a direct relationship with emotional regulation of the child, with all the other things, attention, focus, even memory, retention. So it's going to exhibit in many ways. So that's one thing. If you have noticed that your child is yawning, so sleep and eat, these are the two things you may want to notice more. Now, coming back to 6 years old, see, now she's like, she's out of her pre-primary. So, and she has already differentiated herself from you.
Yeah.
She's ready to go out on her own with the friends. She has come out of all sorts of anxieties like strangers. She has more trust on strangers, separations. She's more confident about it. So there is certain amount of independence that the child is yearning for,
Right.
right? So that also brings certain kind of helplessness at this stage. It can, because there are so many things that your child is still dependent on you, and that is bound. And the child wants to get, all right, I can do it myself, or why are you following up on me with it? Oh, you're getting on my nerves, right? It's a beginning of that. Though 6 years is a little young, but it can be a beginning for that, especially children who are yearning for independence much earlier. So you may want to see where she's feeling more and more in control of the things, and what are the things where you are finding yourself in more conflict with your child. And of course, even if the child says, I'm feeling like killing someone, I'm feeling like hitting someone or breaking someone, I wouldn't really suggest that we actually kind of tell the child that go to your room and you can hit your soft toys or you can do that. Sometimes we, Jarna, think that it's about taking out something, right? We think that it's
Release some
it's sort
anger.
of, it's like
Yeah.
a pressure cooker and it's something which is, yeah, yeah. But then studies have shown that screaming is okay, but then if you're physically throwing things and this, it's not really going to help because it's
Okay.
internal. Externalizing that behavior, even if the child throws 10 things, the core thing hasn't been addressed, which was actually the trigger.
Right.
Okay, so the child is at the end of it also, the child is going to feel as helpless as before. So
Right.
we got to see beyond that. All right, you're feeling like breaking something. You want to think, when did you I mean, the rational thing behind it, if the child is still talking through the meltdown, it's a very good sign, right? Because your daughter is 6, so she's already building good verbal communication. So if you can kind of capitalize on that and hear very carefully what your child is saying through the heat of the moment, and then respond accordingly and remove the noise out of it. So I'm thinking like breaking something is a noise, but then I am feeling very agitated is the real thing. So you kind of have to say, all right, so you want to think, dear, when did you start feeling like this? Were you feeling it when you were eating food? Maybe you go down. No, I was feeling fine at the time. Okay, so but basically what you're doing is you are letting your child do more critical thinking, that all right, what's happening to me. Okay, so that's a good thing. So even when you are not around or something, the child is able to use, you are giving the child a wonderful tools to handle the frustration, right? So I would say address upon the internal handling of it, and when the child sees herself talking more, as long as it is in her mind, that fear is in the mind, whatever was the trigger is in the mind, she will keep feeling frustrated. But as she speaks more, my friend this did to me, she called me this, right? She may actually start speaking. More she speaks, more she is going to feel calm, because the moment she speaks, she hears also, she sees you also calm. You don't have to actually reflect what she's feeling. Oh, your friend did so wrong. Not required. You only have to think, you only have to listen calmly. She's not looking for any solutions from you at that point of time. She's just, if you can help her to just speak, you will notice that she will calm down. So please address to that. That will really help her, the cognitive part of it, instead of going behind the physicality of it. Yeah.
Right. Garima, I hope that detailed, explanation from Kiran really helps you in helping your child deal with their anger issues. Our next question, Kiran, comes in from Megha Sethi. Megha says, I've been listening to all the queries of the other parents, and I also seem to see angerness increasing in my child as well. I am handling him, but there are times where I feel I'm lacking. I don't know what to do. And yes, mobile addiction is also there. Megha's child is also 6 years old, I believe. Actually, Megha has not mentioned, to be honest, how old their child is.
All right. So Jharna, so what we are dealing out here is a 6-year-old boy whose anger is increasing day
Actually,
by day.
actually, the age of the child hasn't been mentioned, but the factor of mobile addiction has been
Yeah.
mentioned
Has,
there. So, Kiran, of course, the pandemic has led to an increase in screen time and mobile time for children. So, could screen time also lead to an addiction, especially when it comes to screen time or gadgets? Could this also see an increase in anger issues in children?
See, we cannot directly kind of say that, all right, the child who is having high screen time is directly going to is directly going to build anger issues as well, right? But
Okay.
we can definitely look upon that, how the time that the child is on devices, how much it is, and what is it substituting, right? What is it that the child is losing on because of this, which could actually be more beneficial to the child? For example, if the child, even though the lockdown at a lot of places is getting over, I hear, there are children who are coming to me, parents coming to me who are saying that their children are not interested in going down now. They're more interested in fine. They are fine with the devices. Now we have to see that if it is affecting the social, interpersonal part of it, if it is affecting the outdoor part of the child, if it is affecting the sleep of the child, right, then definitely we are going to see that and if it is affecting, we got to understand that when the child is on devices, it's a continuous very quick dose of rewards, right? It's like the child is in continuous getting happiness like that, back to back. Okay, I click here, I get this. Okay, if I don't get it, I remove it, I click somewhere else, right? Some notification here, some star here. So continuous dose. Okay, so we got to understand that this is not how it happens in real life. So when the child switches over to the real life, everyone have to actually work much harder to even get a small dose of happiness hormone, dopamine, that we have to say, right? Or even serotonin, or all those other hormones which help us to feel that all is well in our life. We have to work much harder. Even if you have to just go down, just imagine the child has to get ready, right? The child had to pick a few things, has to go down, have to look for the friends, if the child is able to see. So yes, if my concern more than the devices, Jhanna, is always that what the devices are robbing the child away from. So if it is a 6-year-old
Okay.
child, and if the child is on devices for more than 2 hours, is what WHO also recommends, it's bound to show up somewhere. And if the child is not getting his or her 9 to 10 hours of sleep, nighttime sleep, it's bound to show somewhere. Yeah. So you have to understand, if the child is getting sleep, if the child is getting eat, if the child is getting social, interpersonal, if the child is getting exercise properly, right?
Hmm.
Some family time with the families, with the peers. If all these things are getting balanced, the chances are less that the child will have more tantrums, especially because of the lockdown. The chances are less. Then it will be like, it can be some other issue. Yeah.
Okay. Right, Kiran. Our next question comes in from Devanshi Joshi. Devanshi is also the parent of a 6-year-old child. Devanshi says, my son is 6 years and 4 months old, and nowadays he doesn't listen to any instructions. Like if I say, keep your books in place or come for lunch, or if I or his grandparents call him, there is no response. But he doesn't listen at such moments. And prior to this, he was doing his work. So, any advice for Devanshi on how to handle an issue like this?
Okay. Now this is a little tricky question, Devanshi, because it's very it's just one story. It becomes difficult to give generalized solutions for one story, but we will still hazard make some hazardous attempt here. So 6 years, as I always say, that 6 years is the stage, the primary stage, when the child is majorly, massively differentiating himself or herself from the adult. So what that means is the older strategies of do it because you know what, I'm going to for your mama eat one more spoon of food, or do it because you will make me feel happy, right? The child would no longer actually do all the activities just to make you feel happy. So the child has to more and more do it because it is good for him, right? For example, if you say that he is not keeping his plate, okay, after having the food, or if he's not clearing his toys after playing, we got to understand that if the child is not clearing the toys and is moving to another activity, how do you enforce the discipline here? Okay, discipline need not be a negative word. Discipline is something which lets the child have freedom within the given structure, right? It helps the child to feel safe. So in case if the child is playing before the child starts, for example, we have to take example here, like for example, if the child is starting the toy and you know that he doesn't generally clear the toys, so before the child is playing you have to set some ground rules there. 6 years old, beautiful age to start putting verbally the ground rules. You say, you know what, I expect that you clear up your toys once you're done with it before you go to the new one, and then you leave it, right? You go away. You don't even have to say that promise, and because you are just taking what you have said, you are taking it that it will be done. You show trust, you show confidence, right? Then when you notice that yes, the child has moved to something else, the toys are on there, you got to tell the child that you have to finish it before you play with it, and then after that you have to just leave it, right? When the child comes to you for something, that means whenever the child needs your cooperation, you have to just stop it then and there itself. This is just the
Okay.
beginning. Later on, the child will understand that yes, I got to do this before I can do anything else. All right. So
Right.
just consistently help the child set expectations. Okay, and then don't give up on your expectations. Just do these two things, and the child. And yes, in case if the grandparents, you want to build better relationship with the child and grandparents, you can always tell the child that, you know what, I expect you to be polite to the grandparents. I expect that when they tell you a name, you tell them, give him the exact word. Sometimes, Jana, what happens, especially with younger children, we take it for granted that the child will know what to do,
Mm.
right? So tell exactly what you expect the child to do. Tell the child, you know what, when Nani or Dadi calls your name, I expect you to say, yes, Dadi, do you need my help? Give the child the line. Right? Don't
Right.
just say, don't jump to the conclusion that, you are such a rude boy, you did not answer. Tell the child what you
Okay.
expect the child to do. Give more information. As the child is growing 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, more information is going to help the child. Not lectures, action oriented information. So I really hope that
Okay.
helps you, Devanshi.
Yeah. So setting clear expectations and action-oriented information to your child. We also have a couple of more questions from parents of children in the same age group, around 6 years old, so to say. One question is from Wahida, who says, "My daughter is 6.5 years old and she loses her temper every now and then. Prior to this, she never answered back, but now she is. I'm worried because she's getting more and more addicted to the TV and mobile." And another question is from Deepa Tyagi, who says, "My 5 years and 10-month-old daughter is very moody and short tempered. Everything we ask her to do, she refuses to do it directly on our face." Again, I think I know your answer, but because we've discussed this age before. But any further advice for Wahida and Deepa on how to handle their children who are around the 6-year-old age mark and are not responding, answering back, and are moody, short-tempered, and angry?
Yeah. See, there is a very beautiful irony here. When we see the textbooks of a first standard child,
Yeah,
okay, and when we see the textbooks of a senior KG child, we'll start noticing that more and more, critical thinking subjects start coming in first standard, right?
yeah,
More science starts coming. Why this is happening? Why the sky is blue? Why the plants? Why the animals? All these things start coming in, right? The curiosity, natural curiosity of a child gets triggered. That's a natural cognitive development of a child, right?
yeah.
We want to appreciate that, we want to nurture that. And a lot of times we actually take it as answering back. Because see,
Okay.
children, we cannot say that, okay, it is very good where you are saying that, Mama, 2 plus 1, 3, how it would it be 3? Can you show me? We say, wow, you are thinking, you are using your brains. And when we say that, okay, fine, you should wear this red t-shirt down, and the child says, why? So we treat it as answering back.
Yeah. We treat it
Yeah.
as
So
rebellion and
see,
take it personally.
oh
Yeah,
yeah. So we jump to conclusion. Oh, she's opposing what I'm saying.
yeah,
So we got to understand that the child has to build their own value system at the end of the day. At the end of the day, the job of a parent is to help the child become an independent person with good citizen and good value system, right? But it is not going to happen just because the parent is saying do this.
Yeah.
It's going to happen when the child says why. Of course, if you think that you already said the why and the child has built a behavior, that generally happens by the time the child is 11, 12 years old. It doesn't happen at 6. But if you think that you already explained why a lot of times, then you need not go into such a detail. But I'm talking about a 6 years old child, right? The child says why. It is always good if we explain it, we tell it without that thought that, oh my god, my child is giving me a pain to tell the whole thing why I want the child to do. A lot of times, in fact, Jharna, it can actually trigger a thought in the parent that maybe it is not the right expectations. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
wrong to expect that. Maybe it is okay if my child wears a yellow t-shirt, or maybe it is okay if my child repeats the same t-shirt 3 times, right?
Yeah.
Maybe my answer is that my neighbor says your child is always wearing the same t-shirt.
Yeah.
Then it's the parents worry. The t-shirt is
Right.
clean. So what if the child is, a lot of times children get fixated with some things, right? So, and it can get
Particular.
very annoying
Yeah.
with the parents. My child is wearing the same dress every day. Now the question is, if it is clean, neat, hygiene, and your child is wearing the same dress, what's your problem? So a lot of times when the child says why, it may trigger that maybe my expectations are not right. We got to have the wise answer. It may not be answering back. It's a genuine curiosity, and we want to nurture that. We want a thinking human being and not a robot or a trained tiger.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So
So six
setting
years is a beautiful
expectations
age.
in
That's
your
why.
child is
Yeah.
not only important, but setting your own expectations is also crucial over here. Right. We have a very interesting question, Kiran, from Brian Rodriguez, who wants to know how do you differentiate between behavior, tantrum, and meltdown? As there is a very fine line, he says. Despite analyzing the A, B, C of behaviors, and how do we address the same in kids with autism who are close to their teens? Also considering hormonal changes at this age.
You're talking about teenagers and the tantrum and meltdown there, Jharna?
Yeah, Brian is kind of referring to children who might be on the spectrum and are close to the teenage years. And how would you differentiate between is there a difference, first of all, between a tantrum and a meltdown? And how do you address these issues considering that they are also going through hormonal changes at this age?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we can understand that there are too many things happening in the child's life, and there are
Yes.
so many things that the child internally as well as physically is kind of still trying to figuring out. Oh my God, what's happening to me now? And also is trying to understand that all the feelings that I'm getting right now, is it okay? Is it normal? Okay, and of course puberty related changes, the child is also based on body image and based on culture and all, could have massive consciousness as well. So we can understand a lot of things are going on at that point of time. So now see, when we talk about, okay, technically what is how do you label, okay, is it a tantrum, or how do we say it's a meltdown? uh, we got to understand that terminologies apart. Okay, it's a process. It starts from a need. Okay, a need could be the child's own need, right? When the child makes his or her own aim that I have to achieve it, I have to prepare for Olympiad exam, or I have to make friends with somebody else in the classroom. It could be anything, right? Or I have to do well in my exams, whatever it is. So it starts from the aim which the child has internally made for himself or herself, or it could also be a borrowed one by the parents' influence or somebody else's influence. It starts from there. Okay, and then of course the anxieties which are associated with it when the child does his or her own mathematics, can I achieve it? Older children often do a lot of thinking, and in fact sometimes before even trying they just give up, saying that in any case I knew I'm not going to do well in it, so I didn't even try. So it starts it gets into the the thinking part of it, and then the anxiety gets can be manifested in a lot of ways, temperamentally how the child is, how behaviorally the child has got validations, okay, from the peers as well as from the social cues, because older children also work upon the social cues in the society and by the parents. And then finally the child can have a complete meltdown. Meltdown is the final actually stage where you cannot go in the, whether it is a 2-year-old child or whether it is a 15-year-old child. 2-year-old child who is clawing or hitting the parent, or a 15-year-old child who is like kind of throwing things or banging, slamming the door, right? So meltdown is the final thing. It's important to understand when it reaches there. Reasoning is not going to help. But then wherever you see the ebbs, uh, calmly speaking can help, and consistent rules can help. And for older children, natural consequences can help as well when the child calms down. So if the child has strewn newspapers around, when the child calms down, you are not in a hurry to pick it up, and you let the child, you set the process or expectation at home that, all right, whatever, now it's time to pick it up. So yeah, so natural consequences are important for older children as well. So I hope all this terminologies apart, we have to understand it's a process, and children needs a lot of support from the parents even when they are much older. Yeah.
Right, Kiran. We have another question from a parent whose child is in the similar age group. The question comes from Kaiser Kadri, whose daughter is 12 years old. Kaiser says, my daughter is very short tempered and argues with her mother. How do I handle this behavior at this age? He has a 12-year-old daughter.
Right. Now, 12 years old is a time, Faisal, when a child actually has a lot of avenues to get information, and there are other underlying challenges which affect the child, apart from curiosity, which actually is when the primary section kids are getting affected with. So there are many other reasons why the child, it could be looking for more attention, it could be testing the limits more, right? It could be something else bothering the child, but the child just is evading to think about it, and is trying to distract himself or herself. So with a 12-year-old child, we have to check out more that what's going on, or if the need be. But at the same time, a 12-year-old child, you, Faisal, have to think about the clear, very, very clear instructions of not, don'ts as well. It is very important that a clear instructions are set up that we can't name call, we cannot hit, right? And if the child out of rage has broken something, it is, or torn her or his own clothes, it is also important to then follow it up with natural consequences. Don't be in a hurry. It's not important to fix it when the things are heat in the moment. Let it pass away. Let the torn clothes, you put it on the, I'm just taking an analogy because it happens if the cases come to me. So you can just put it, leave it in the child's room in a one corner. Let it be 1 day, 2 day, 3 days, 7 day. Don't be in a hurry. Finally, when the child comes to you, talk to the child. Oh, you know what? Talk about the information. Give the information. You know what? We lost that. So how do we compensate for it? You always need to have, how do we compensate for it? More we talk about it with older children, more are the chances, because see, 12-year-old, they are actually going towards adulthood. So that is how it works in adult world, right? Whatever we do, if we go to our neighbor and we shout at the neighbor, the cooperation is going to be very low with the neighbor, right? So this is how it works in real world. So a little bit of that flashes have to be shown to a 12-year-old child, not in a rage, but in a very calm manner. That, dear, you know what? You're shouting, and your name, when you call me stupid, my level of cooperation is really going down. So I'll still think about it, how much to cooperate. I'll come back to you. Give me half an hour time. I will take my shot. Whatever. I'll take my break. It's a good idea to kind of think and give information to the child. He or she is going to understand it better. It'll help the child finally to handle the real world, but because that's finally our aim here. Yeah.
Right. Kiran, our next question comes in from Nandini. Nandini says, my child is feeling neglected by his teacher, and seeing him appreciate other kids and not even acknowledge his answers or achievements is making my child say, I hate this, and why does he do this? I don't want to join class anymore. How do I handle this situation and help my child cope with this situation?
Yeah. How old is the child, Jana?
Kiran, actually, the child's age is not mentioned over here.
Right. So probably I'll take two groups, because for a 4-year-old child and for a 12-year-old child, it is a little different. I would always suggest, Nandini, that finally, at the end of the day, the parent has to truly believe that what they say matters the most. And ideally, you really cannot change the world to suit the child, right? So it is important that the child, if your child is coming and telling that, you know what, my teacher is not praising me or something, just some kind of empathy, right? And let the child talk about it without you taking that worry that, okay, you know what, making a mental note, I have to talk to the teacher in the back, right, that please take my child's name more. In any case, online schooling is a little tough, right? If it is a 4-year-old, it is very tough. If it is a 12-year-old, they are still able to kind of hang on,
We will.
right? Yeah, they are still able to do it, even though they keep their videos off. But then, yeah, right, you're going to help your child to understand more. Yeah, I can understand. And if you can think of your own times, if you can reflect back that, yes, there was a time when I did this, and I uh, whatever, if you can think, my teacher did not notice and I felt a little sad, so I can imagine how you feel. So if you can just let the child speak about it, and I can understand how tough it is, and you put your expectation that, you know what, my expectation is that, we get the knowledge from it, but I can understand how you feel. So that way the child will not give up his trials, because at the end of the day, Nandini, we got to understand whatever we do manipulatively for the child, make the tweaks for the child, do projects on behalf of the child so that the child gets the praises more. At the end of the day, we got to give credit to the child's intellectual ability to differentiate that I did the hard work or my parents did it.
Right.
The laurels that the child gets. Yeah, sorry, Jarna, you were saying something.
No, we've getting quite a few questions in, so I'll just actually take a few questions from parents of toddlers, and maybe you could, address them all together. We have a question in from a parent of a 2-year-old, Sunena, who's writing in from Bangalore. And Sunena says, my daughter is about to be 2 years old and she always wants to go out. If anyone from our home is going out, she starts, crying aloud, lying down on the floor. And if we do not give in to what she wants, it could be a phone, a remote, etc. She throws a tantrum, even though she has other toys to play with. So that's from Sunena, who is the parent of a 2-year-old. We also have a question from another toddler parent, Ankita Man Dheer, who is writing in from Delhi, is the parent of a 3-year-old child. Ankita says, my son is 3 years and 3 months old, and he's getting aggressive day by day, both at home as well as outside. He cries for his demands and lies down on the floor to make sure his demands are fulfilled. Nowadays, he's obsessed with the Spider-Man theme and wants to wear his favorite t-shirt all the time, due to which he gets up at night and even starts crying. And we're worried about his health also at this stage. Um, yeah, so Kiran, if you could address these questions from toddler parents.
Right. Okay, so I'll come to you, Sunena and Ankita. Just one line that I would say to Nandini is that the laurels that the child gets, not because of his or her own hard work, doesn't stay with the child for long. All right. So I hope you think about it. Now, Sunena and Ankita, a good thing is, Jarna, when parents hear each other that, okay, my child is lying down the floor, probably it kind of brings in that, okay, it's developmentally, it is okay for the child to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are not actually putting on the child that it's something wrong with my child that he or she is doing it.
Right.
Okay. So see, a lot of time I say the similar lines. That is that we all know that we are limbic. We all want that the child is speaking and telling what is bothering them, and then we have a nice dialogue and we are able to bring our child out of the pain that he or she is feeling. Now, 2 years old, the tricky point is that they are not verbally so, right? They're not so developed that they can actually communicate with you everything. And they get overwhelmed much faster. Okay, so we are going to take one specific thing at a time. For example, Sunena, if your child, whenever somebody is going out, your child runs and picks up the shoes and says, okay, I also want to go out with first the dada, then dadi, then father, then mother. And as a parent, it could be really heartbreaking for you that why don't I just let my child go this time? Now, the thing is, somewhere, the more you do it, off and on, because there will be some time genuinely where you cannot do it, like somebody is going to office, somebody is going for market somewhere, bank and all. But the more you do it because your child has started going, more your child is going to feel anxious, because the child
Right.
cannot differentiate that why am I not being allowed now. Okay, so Sunena, somewhere your child has to feel safe with your instructions, and that will happen when you're consistent. So in case if you truly know that I cannot allow my child to go, for example, Dada is going to bank and we are not going there, we'll wait, right? Whatever you can say the next time, like we'll wait for 5 o'clock when we'll go down. And then whatever your child goes through, the meltdown, you have to support your child. Right. So that way, as a child, actually, if you will do it, 2 years old, beautiful age, within 15, 20 days, you will notice that if you consistently do it, your child is going to feel safe with your words. Okay. And is going to feel safe with your no's, that, okay, mama said no, it's going to stay as no. But yes, I'm okay to go through the frustration of it. So, and then one thing which I always tell Sunena is that please do not get fearful of your child's reactions. We do no justice to the children by being fearful by their reactions. If we are fearful, the child is not getting confidence that it's okay to feel like that. All right. So you can't say that, okay, let us stealthily go out without telling the child. You have to tell, all right, confidently, okay, I'm going, I'll be back in half an hour's time. Bye, see you. And you go out. The child is going to feel safe. Yes, I know when somebody's going. Otherwise, the child will keep looking out. I have to keep a watch. It's unnecessarily causing anxiety to the child. So you have to show your confidence that child can handle it. Then the child's confidence increases. Okay, Ankita, for the Spider-Man, your child wants to hear, but I was a little confused. Why would the child cry up in nighttime? And is it that the child is not wearing the Spider-Man T-shirt or something? 3-year-old. It is good if the child wants you give as much autonomy as is possible to the child. If there is a night dress and
Kiran, can you hear us?
sorry about that. If there is a
Yeah.
night dress and the child says no, I want to wear on it, and if the quality of the cloth is such that it's not cotton or something, and you don't want the child to wear it, you can give options to the child, right? So you basically want that how the child can get more autonomy in the decisions that he wants, unless it is affecting the safety and health of the child. So find some middle ground which will help the child and give information that, you know what, this material, it's not good for your skin. Still, if the child, and you will feel hot. Still, if the child insists, see, you are just suggesting, it's not a safety or health issue. So still, if the child insists, let the child wear it and sweat through, and in the night time you can easily take it out, right, and just leave it at the side of the child's pillow, right? So
Right.
sometimes let the child get the pain of decisions. These are
Yeah.
simple ones, right? You can help the child. Yeah.
Right. If you've just joined us on this Parent Tune Live, we are with child psychologist Kiran Tevtiya, who is answering all your questions on how to deal with your child's anger. Um, we have a question coming in from Gayatri Patel. Gayatri is the parent to a 5-year-old, and Gayatri says, my son is 5 years old and is more interested in playing games on the mobile and starts getting angry and starts shouting if we refuse. He starts throwing things, beating up his little brother, and threatening that he will harm or break things when we say no. Please suggest what to do, and this has happened during the lockdown specifically.
Right. There is one thing, Jarna, that when the lockdown started, okay, last year March end or something, um, in India it started March end. So a lot of times, many experts, actually suggested that it's okay, it's a temporary thing, let the child be with the devices. In any case, they have
Right.
nothing else to do, so
Yeah.
let them go with it. Now, because there was no timeline to it, and it developmentally the child is growing each day. Okay, so then the withdrawal symptoms, genuinely the withdrawal symptoms are being faced across the age groups. The older the age
Yeah.
group, the tougher it is.
Yeah.
Okay, with parenting and with children, I would always suggest, even let's not have it as a temporary thing. Okay, children are trust the children's capability of resilience. Trust that yes, it is not the parent's job to keep the child entertained all the times. Plus, right from the child, when the child is say 4 years plus, have some kind of chores which are good for the child. Okay, let the child do more and more things of their own self-care activities. A lot of times, Jharna, I notice the children are not doing for their own stuff. They're not even picking up their toys, right?
Right.
So you got to kind of help the child to do their own things, and not think that as a parent your responsibility is to always keep the child happy and entertained and engaged. The child needs to feel bored. Now, coming back to here, for a 5-year-old child, first thing is you got to make the mobile routine wise, right? Young children and even older ones, right? Go to the mobile, because whenever they see a dip in the energy level, or whenever they see some kind of, even a sense of boredom, they think, okay, this is because the brain is supporting it, right? It's a quick fix, like a coffee, like a tea. It's a quick fix. I know I'm going to get it because I got it the last time. So if
Right.
you got to break it down, you got to break it down, the routine in such a manner that, you know what, dear, we have devices from whatever the time, right? 4 to 6 p.m. So no matter what the child throws, does, so you will notice that once the child gets the consistency of the nose, he will feel safer in that routine, as compared to, going to devices anytime, whenever and when the child is not getting it, of course there are going to be withdrawal symptoms. You want to help your child with that. He's 5, it's easier to do it, but yes, and don't take the child's things verbally. A lot of times, when the child says, I'm going to break it, I'm going to do it, then we just visualize it. The child has already thrown a bat on your sibling's head, and we say, how dare you even speak like this? Right? So let's see the emotions behind what the child is saying. Yes, I can see you're feeling very angry, but you know what, dear? The mobile time is at 4 o'clock. So don't let's not react on the noises behind. Let's react on the emotions. Let's respond to the emotions behind, and still keep the consistency in the no. It's going to help the child when the child sees the consistency. Yeah.
Right. Kiran, our next question comes in from Dr. Monica Sharma, who is the parent to a 7-year-old girl who's writing in from Yamuna Nagar. Monica says, Ma'am, my girl of 7 years feels emotional when she's not given importance by neighbors and cries. She feels possessive for elder girls, and she wants them to, stay with her constantly. If they don't come, and she doesn't feel like playing then, and she can't bear it if her choice is not accepted. So how do I help her and help her to become more emotionally stable?
Right. Okay. So, Monica, it's a fair enough expectations, right? Young children often feel more connected to a little older children, especially if they have some siblings, older siblings. They are like aspirational for them, and they are doing, and they are extra kind to them. Just imagine your child going with a peer, and they snatch something. They're not more generous, but older children are more generous to younger ones. So younger ones gravitate towards them. They feel safe. However, most of the older children do not include the younger children in their plays, which the younger children, of course, are going to feel left out. So it's because sometimes older children say, okay, you have the kachi mitti, so you can join and all, but many older children are not. So that's how the fact is. And of course, your daughter is bound to feel bad about it. So if you may want to maybe help your child by going with your child down and just letting her keep trying each day. If she's going and again going, without telling her that, no, you know what, you should not go and talk to them also. You know that instead of speaking on behalf of the older children, right? You need not speak on behalf of the older children. Let the child keep trying some or the other way. And then finally, probably she will connect with somebody who is of her age group, or somebody who is younger to her. She will make her own social groups. So we have to understand, Monica, that interpersonal and making friends is a process, right? And as a parent, of course, it's painful when the child says, nobody is my friend. It feels bad, right? So you can probably just help the child saying, okay, so I can understand how it feels, right? So what did you want to do today? Okay, I wanted to play badminton. Nobody was there. Okay, I can understand. If you have the bandwidth, maybe you can join the child. But trust me, the next day, for a 7-year-old, next day when she's again getting up and going, you need not get worried that will my child get a friend today or not, because your child will not give up going down. Just imagine that's the resilience of this age. They will again go down the next day. So even if she may know that I may not get friends, so you need not put your fears on the child. Let the child keep trying, but just kind of support the child through this phase when she's learning to make friends. Again, I would not suggest that sometimes as a parent we get into manipulation. We go down with the child. We tell the older children, why don't you include her also in the plays and all those things. See, it's a social thing. It's a grouping thing. And when you tell this, you are actually taking the power away from the child, from your child. You are taking away the confidence away from your child that, okay, I need to step in. In fact, once your child is 11 or 12 years old, your child will tell himself or herself to you, Mama, you don't come in between. I will handle it. Don't tell other people. It actually happens, they say, don't tell other people to play with me. I will do it. When they go to the new society and all, and they see the parent is trying too hard to make friends, right? So take it a little easy. 7 years old, they really want to try. Keep trying. Only thing is, focus that the child is going out each day, right? That will help her better. So even if there are days she doesn't want to go down, you say, oh, you can help and you can go with her down. Just you know what, we go down to exercise also. You can actually put it like this: outdoors is for exercise. We see the squirrel, we see the birds and all. So you can actually project the outdoors as that, and you make friends. Great. Let's see. So take it a little, don't take it so seriously in terms of helping the child so much, but just empathize with your child and support your child through this process. This is not easy. Making friends is not easy. So she will learn it through her social cues. These are social cues she is getting. Let her learn it through that. Yeah.
Right. Kiran, thank you so much for all your expert advice today. We'll be back tomorrow with a Parentune Plus Live with psychiatrist Dr. Vidya Ganapati on how to recognize ADHD in children and intervention strategies for parents for ADHD. You can register for tomorrow's Parentune Plus Live or take up an annual Parentune Plus membership on the Parentune app. Take good care and see you tomorrow.
Thank you,
Bye, Kiran.
Prerna. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.